What's up, everybody? And today we're checking out why the F-15 terrified the Soviets. I don't know much about the F-15. We've done all sorts of stuff, right? We've done the F-22, we've done the F-35, we've done bombers, we've done helicopters, we've done drones, we've done ships. But I haven't learnt much about the F-15, and the thumbnail looks sick, so I thought we'd watch it. This is by Mustard, which there will be a link to the original video in the description down below. If you want to watch the original video, go over there if you don't want to hear me waffling on over the top of it, okay? So go check that out if you haven't already. Go and give them a like and subscribe, because they deserve it. They deserve it. And before you go, give my videos a like and subscribe. Over 90% of people who watch my videos are not subscribed, so please subscribe. It would help with that mysterious YouTube algorithm that we know nothing about. It really would. What else? Check out DREADNOUGT MEADERY, the project me and my brother are working on. The mead back there. Me and my brother are tasting mead. We're reviewing mead. We're learning about mead, and we're even making it. So if you want to check that out, go to the description and check it out. But other than that, let's shut up. Let's make me head small. I haven't said that in a while, have I? Let's make me head small. And let's watch this and have some fun.
In July 1967, the Soviet Union reveals what appears to be a new superfighter, and it sets off alarm bells.
Okay. Is this the one that was... Is this the one that would fly incredibly fast, and everyone was paranoid about it, but it ended up just being kind of shit? It just could go fast, that's all it could do?
Inventory that could consistently, if successfully, combat the Foxbat. It is thought to have multiple air-to-air and long-range air-to-surface missile capability at a speed of Mach 3.
Woo! With the United States and Soviet Union locked in a struggle for air superiority, the Soviets seem to be winning. Faced with the prospect of being...
Let's look at them real quick. So we've got the fish bed, the MiG-21. We've got the flogger, the MiG-23. The flagon, the Su-15, and then the MiG-25 Foxbat. Which is the one I feel like I've heard of the most, to be fair.
Outclassed in the skies, the United States would respond by engineering the greatest fighter jet in history.
Yes, let's go! Oh my god, it looks sick, doesn't it?
In the Korean War, early fighter jets...
So can I just say, this video started off, and I'm very impressed with it so far.
Like the American F-86 and Soviet MiG-15 squared off in fierce air-to-air battles. Both were light, agile jets built for close-range dogfighting. But...
Look how weird they look. The F-86. Very strange-looking aircraft, aren't they? It's like weird era in time where it was like a transition between the old school planes, like the Spitfire and stuff like that, and coming into the new modern era of propulsion and jet capabilities, like the moving from propellers to jets, right? And they've come up with these things, and it's like that weird kind of middle ground, isn't it?
By the mid-1950s, new technologies were beginning to radically transform fighter aircraft design. Powerful new radars could detect the enemy from much greater distances, while newly introduced guided missiles could hit targets kilometers away. Military planners grew convinced that air battles of the future would be fought beyond visual range, where the enemy wouldn't be more than a distant blip on a radar screen.
Yeah.
And it meant the newest fighter jet, the F-4 Phantom, was no longer light or agile. It was fast, heavily loaded with missiles, and carried a powerful radar. Many believed that dogfighting had become obsolete, but in reality, nothing could be further from the truth.
God, you imagine some of the newer aircraft doing dogfighting now. Like, you don't see it because, you know, we've been at war in Afghan and Iraq and stuff, and there was never really any air-to-air combat. Can you imagine if it was two of the superpowers and there was legit air-to-air combat with, like, the F-22 or the F-35 and stuff? It would be absolutely nuts, wouldn't it?
In the Vietnam War, the Air Force's new approach was put to the test, but things didn't go as planned. The skies over Vietnam were a chaotic mix of enemy and friendly aircraft, and the systems designed to help Air Force pilots identify the enemy proved unreliable, forcing pilots to get in close to visually confirm each target. The whole idea of engaging from a distance fell apart. The new F-4 Phantoms were pulled into close-quarter dogfights against more agile MiGs, something
You have to remember as well. So obviously, I was in the Royal Marines Commandos, so I was boots on the ground. If we ever came into a position where they, enemies had aircraft and they were flying about, like, you want to scramble our jets and get them in there, like, ASAP. Otherwise, they're going to just destroy stuff on the ground. They're going to destroy stuff. So for us on the floor, me and my fellow Royal Marines Commandos, seeing America step up and do something like this is incredibly inspiring and reassuring. Very reassuring that the Air Force, whether that's the RAF, the US Air Force, has our back, and it's very important.
their pilots had never been trained to do, and the Phantom's guided missiles proved hopelessly inaccurate. Designed for larger, high-altitude targets, initially only 14% ever hit anything.
Holy,
and
that's
when
a
the
low
missiles
number.
failed, pilots were left defenseless, because the F-4 was built without a gun for close combat. The larger, less maneuverable Phantoms, with their notoriously smoky engines, were easily spotted. The more agile MiGs lured the F-4s in close, knowing they were vulnerable.
The F-4 Phantom just barely held its own in this airspace because it is an interceptor used as a fighter, finding it difficult to compete with a fighter designed as a fighter.
American pilots were being downed at alarming rates, and military planners were learning that the age of dogfighting was far from over.
Yeah, that's terrifying. Look at the upgrades there on the aircraft. That's pretty crazy, isn't it? So the F-4 came after the F-86, and you can see we're starting to take that the more modern kind of aesthetic. It's weird how they had them this stubby nose on the originals is obviously to get more air into the engine. It's weird how it changed the shape so quickly.
Air Force planners scrambled to respond, equipping the F-4 with pod-mounted Gatling guns and training pilots to engage the more maneuverable MiGs. But these were stopgap solutions. What the Air Force really needed was a new dedicated air superiority fighter, and it meant scrapping every one of its earlier concepts.
Whoa, let's look at this real quick. These are all early concepts that we're scrapping. Variable sweep wings. Whoa, look at that. Mac Advanced Tactical Fighter, the BC-22 and the FX. Fixed wings, podded engines. Whoa, I've not seen any of these before. Variable sweep wing, fuselage, mounted engines. Whoa. Fixed wings, fuselage, mounted engines. Barely see them ones. That's so bizarre.
Earlier concepts for the next generation of fighter aircraft, which now looked too large, too heavy, and likely to fare even worse than the Phantom. And they'd have to move quickly, because in 1967, the Soviet Union unveiled a new fighter of their own, and it looked nothing like the MiGs that F-4 Phantoms were squaring off with in Vietnam. Everything seemed to suggest a fighter built for extreme maneuverability, with twin tails, a massive wingspan, and monstrous engines. Intelligence experts suspected that the Soviets were using advanced lightweight materials, along with new radar and weapon systems.
Was this the one that... so we watched a video on an aircraft a while back where basically it was getting extraordinary speeds, and everyone was panicking about it, and we didn't really know much about it. And then one of them was down somewhere, like a failure happened, and it was down. And then we realized that it was just incredibly fast, but it just wasn't as good as we thought it was. Is that Is this that aircraft? I watched a video on it a while ago. I'm wondering if it is.
A few months later, the Soviets went on a record-setting spree, posting new world speed and altitude records with the new fighter. Officials suspected the worst.
We currently have no fighter in our operational inventory that could consistently, if successfully, combat the Foxbat.
If the experience in Vietnam wasn't concerning enough, the Soviet Union now looked ready to unleash a new super fighter.
I think it was.
After spending the better part of 2 decades building mostly interceptors, fighter bombers, and attack aircraft, the Air Force finally set its sights on building a state-of-the-art air superiority fighter.
This video is so well put together. Please go over to the original YouTube channel. Again, there'll be a link in the description. Go over there and give it a like.
In 1968, leading U.S. aircraft designers were invited to submit proposals. Their entries would be assessed using a groundbreaking concept called energy maneuverability, a mathematical formula to help define a fighter's total performance in terms of speed, thrust, drag, and weight. In December 1969, the contract to build the new fighter was awarded to McDonnell Douglas. Their design was the product of 2.5 million man-hours of effort, allowing development to begin immediately.
Imagine them decisions. Them decisions you've got to make. Like, I couldn't even bear the pressure of something like that. Like, I obviously have had to work under incredible pressure being in the Royal Marines, you know? But, like, the pressure of making them decisions is crazy, isn't it? What a shot.
The F-15 Eagle was designed from the ground up for tactical dominance in any airspace.
It doesn't even look real,
Two
that shot.
afterburner turbofans could unleash a massive 48,000 pounds of combined thrust, enough power to break the sound barrier even while flying straight up. With a top speed of over Mach 2.5, the F-15 would be the fastest fighter jet ever produced by the United States.
Woo!
For peak performance, the engines were fitted with variable air intakes, with a computerized air inlet control system adjusting to ensure optimal airflow at any speed or angle of attack. Where earlier fighters like the F-4 had a reduced wing area for high supersonic speeds, in the F-15, engineers instead opted for low wing loading, which combined with a high thrust-to-weight ratio delivered superior maneuverability. For maximum situational awareness, the cockpit was mounted high in the fuselage, with a canopy offering a commanding 360-degree view. Along
The brains behind this is just baffling, isn't it? Like, this you've got to be so smart.
with a digital heads-up display fully integrated with radar and avionics. 8 Sparrow and Sidewinder missiles were mounted under the wings and along the fuselage. But if things got up close and personal, a 20mm Gatling gun could dish out 6,000 rounds a minute.
Whew.
And for maximum survivability, engineers designed in triple redundant hydraulics, low vulnerability flight controls, and a reinforced airframe. With its combination of speed, power, and agility, the F-15 was ready to earn its place as one of the greatest fighters ever built.
Ooh, look at it.
The first prototype was
Unbelievable.
unveiled in June 1972, just 3 years after McDonnell Douglas was given the go-ahead.
That's pretty crazy. 3 years. Like, 3 years in production that's quick. That is quick.
The new fighter was put through an extensive testing program, and it would have to prove itself against the best of what the Air Force had to offer. Up against the heavy F-4 Phantom, the F-15 looked assured and in control, easily making quick work of the interceptor.
Yeah, Charlie Howell's nose isn't on me, but I'm in deep trouble here. F-4, you're about to get gunned.
Even the smaller, lighter F-5, used to simulate more agile MiG fighters in combat, struggled to shake the larger F-15.
Overhead. I can't do anything about it. Box 1 on the F-5, nose down.
In nearly every engagement, whether beyond visual range or close-in dogfighting, the F-15 commanded an overwhelming advantage.
Can you imagine the feeling that these pilots have doing these tests and be like, all right, we've got something good here? The excitement was probably unreal, wasn't it? Like, the excitement, I bet all of them pilots was like, I want to get in that. I want to get inside. I know a lot of people are going to be making jokes. I want to be inside that. Do you know what I mean?
With a true air superiority fighter on their hands, the Air Force was ready to send a message to the Soviet Union. Only a year and a half earlier, the Soviets posted new time-to-climb world records with the MiG-25. Now, the F-15 was about to erase them. In 1975, engineers stripped a pre-production F-15 of its non-mission critical components, even removing its paint to make it as light as possible. In the cold, dense air of North Dakota, the Eagle made a series of climbs from a dead stop, rocketing up to altitudes as high as 30 kilometers, right to the edge of the Earth's stratosphere. Not only did the F-15 beat the MiG's records, it shattered them by more than 25%.
Wow.
The Air Force had a winner on their hands.
That's crazy. That's legit crazy that they beat it by 25%. Wow.
and the F-15 Eagle would come to be recognized as one of the most successful fighter development programs in history. By 1974, the fighter was already in mass production, with over 400 early F-15A and B models ordered for the U.S. Air Force. And America's allies were also eager to get their hands on the new jet.
Yeah, I bet they were selling like hotcakes. The UK, a lot of Europe, all the NATO. Well, was NATO around then? When was NATO formed? When was NATO formed? Am I an idiot right now? 1 second. NATO formation. When was NATO formed? Yeah, 1949. Yeah, it was way before. Yeah, NATO were probably like, give me some of them. All the countries in NATO were like, I want some of them.
The first foreign operator was Israel, beginning in 1976, followed by Japan a couple years later, and Saudi Arabia. And with some of the first F-15s being deployed at West German air bases, right on the Soviet Union's doorstep, it seemed only a matter of time before the new fighter faced off against the MiG-25.
Yeah.
In 1976, the Americans finally got a first-hand look at the Soviet Union's superfighter. But it wasn't what they were expecting. In September of that year, Lieutenant Viktor Belyanka, a 29-year-old pilot with the Soviet Air Defense Forces, made a fateful decision to escape the Soviet Union. And he did it by secretly flying his MiG-25 from a...
This is the video. This is what we heard about. And then we got the MiG-25 and then discovered that it weren't that good.
Soviet air base in the Far East to a civilian airport in Japan. After more than a decade shrouded in mystery, the Americans got a chance to examine the Foxbat down to every last detail. Although similar in size and appearance, the MiG-25 and F-15 had almost nothing else in common. Built mostly out of heavy nickel-steel alloy, the Foxbat weighed nearly twice as much as the F-15. The large wings weren't for agility, they were needed just to get the monstrous jet airborne. The enormous weight meant that the MiG-25 could only pull a 4.5G maneuver. The F-15...
So it is the MiG-25 then that turned out to be trash, really.
...was capable of nearly twice that. Most of what the MiG carried was fuel needed to feed its enormous engines. Even so, its combat radius was a mere 300 kilometers.
That's crazy.
Its avionics used outdated vacuum tubes, and its radar lacked look-down capability.
Classic Russia.
Couldn't even detect an F-15 flying below its horizon.
Classic Russia, showing off, thinking that they've got the best of the best, and it turns out to be trash. Look at them, we're going to take over Ukraine. Get absolutely trashed with their old equipment. Do you know what I mean? It just seems like exactly like stereotypical Russian military. Oh, we've got the best of the best. We are the best of the best. And all of a sudden they pull it out and people find out that it's absolutely old dog shit.
The MiG-25 was anything but the dogfighting monster the Americans had feared.
Yeah.
It was purely a high-altitude interceptor, designed to reach incredible speeds to catch enemy bombers. But it wasn't built to do much else. The Soviets had kept the Foxbat's capabilities a closely guarded secret, cashing in on its propaganda value and the alarm it had caused the Americans.
Yeah.
But now it was the Soviets' turn to panic.
Yeah, and they've kicked themselves because America were panicking and were like, we need to beat something, because obviously they're showing off with this thing. Built this incredible F-15 that's unreal, and then turns out theirs was shit anyway, and now all of a sudden America's got the best fighter jet in the world.
Because in 1976, the Soviet Union had no fighter that stood any chance of surviving a dogfight with an F-15. F-15s scored their first victories in 1979, when Israeli pilots downed 4 Syrian MiG-21s in a single engagement.
Whew.
Over the years, the Eagle would win air battle after air battle, clearing the skies of adversaries almost as a matter of routine.
Oh my
Today,
God.
F-15s have racked up more than 100 victories without a single defeat.
Holy, without a single defeat, guys. Think about that for a second. That is unfathomable. Unfathomable.
Unmatched by any fighter in history. Early F-15A and B models were soon joined by C and D variants, improving on the aircraft's range, payload, and weapon systems.
Interesting.
Originally conceived as an air superiority fighter, the F-15 would also be developed into a formidable ground attack aircraft.
I did not know anything about this. Nothing.
leveraging the fighter's superior range, speed, and payload. Nearly a half-century after taking to the skies, the F-15 remains vital to the U.S. Air Force, with deliveries beginning in 2021 of the F-15EX, a thoroughly modernized replacement for the F-15C. The MiG-25 was never designed to combat an air superiority
That definitely looks animated, by the way. It doesn't look real.
fighter like the F-15. But in January of 1991, the two Cold War icons came face to face over the skies of Baghdad.
Really?
And the outcome wasn't what anyone could have predicted. Because what the MiG-25 lacked in maneuverability, it made up for in raw power as the fastest fighter of all time. And the Iraqis would use it to their advantage, devising a daring plan to ambush F-15 Eagles as they patrolled the skies. You can learn about this incredible air battle in my next video coming exclusively to Nebula this month.
Oh, I want to watch that. I might watch that. What a
Nebula
great
is where
video.
You can watch a growing number of exclusive mustard videos, like the story of the MiG-31 Interceptor, the legendary F-117 Knight.
All right, I'm going to leave it there because I'm pretty sure the rest of it is an ad for Nebula. And you can go check that out if you want to check it out. What an absolutely fantastic, brilliant video. That's one of the best videos I've seen on aircraft so far. Absolutely fantastic. It was by Mustard. And there'll be a link in the description to the original video. Check that out if you haven't already. Go over there, subscribe, like, all that good stuff. Brilliant video. Absolutely brilliant. That was fascinating. I didn't know anything about the F-15. And obviously, being in the Royal Marines Commandos, you don't really know much about aircraft, right? I've been in Chinooks and a few other little small aircraft. But other than that, I haven't really touched them. So it's really interesting to see it because we should know about that stuff. We should know about it because it is vital to understand what's going on all around you. Having a perception and having as much information as possible when you're on the ground is incredibly important. It's very important. So yeah, really enjoyed that video. If you want to see more, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Over 90% of people who watch these videos are not subscribed. So please subscribe if you aren't already. Other than that, I love you all. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.